Hello everyone, I'm Professor Plank. I normally respond to various theological and ideological questions and claims from a rationalistic and naturalistic approach in an effort to give and explain the opposite viewpoint and help to balance the conversation. But today, doing something a little bit different. I just wanted to do a quicker video because yesterday, as I was perusing the interwebs to see what the news of the day was talking about, I came across this article published on thehill.com titled, "Belief in God, the Devil, Falls to New Low," according to Gallup. And I wanted to spend a couple of minutes looking at this because this marks the lowest numbers for theistic belief in a national poll that I've ever seen.
Let the sun shine. Let the sun shine in.
So the article begins by saying, Americans' belief in God, the devil, and other spiritual entities has fallen to a new low, according to a Gallup poll released on Thursday. 74% of Americans said they believe in God, while 69% said they believe in angels, and 67% said they believe in heaven, the poll found. Slightly smaller shares, 59% and 58%, said they believe in hell and the devil. And then, the really encouraging addition to this article is the graph they provide of the percentage of American beliefs in these various supernatural beings and places since they first began tracking this in and about the year 2001. As you can see, belief in all of these things have been trending downwards for years now. But that isn't surprising. I mean, we've known that from previous polls on theistic belief in recent years that has been happening. What is surprising, and I dare say encouraging, is how that drop has been accelerated in recent years, particularly where the belief in God is concerned. That number was polling at 90% or higher throughout the early 2000s, when all of a sudden, in about 2006, it took a sharp dive and then sloped into a pretty much straight line and consistent decline ever since for the last 15 years. As a matter of fact, belief in God had the steepest decline of all of these 5 things this poll was looking at, having fallen a full 5 percentage points since the last time the survey was conducted in 2016. That means that, according to this poll, a full quarter, a full 1/4 of the American population does not believe in the existence of a God anymore. Now, many may not personally subscribe to the label of atheist, and I would never ascribe a label to somebody that they didn't agree with. They may instead prefer to call themselves non-religious, non-spiritual, agnostic, or just nothing in particular. But when the only criteria for being an atheist is not having an affirmative belief in God, that means that effectively and technically, 1/4 of the population of the U.S. are atheists as of today. Also interesting to note, the belief in heaven fell past the belief in angels by just a smidge, and that happened back in 2016. But that wasn't a temporary fluke, apparently, as that gap has widened since then. The article goes on to say, since the pollster first began collecting survey data on the subject more than 2 decades ago, belief in God and heaven has dropped 16 points, while belief in hell has fallen 12 points, and belief in the devil and angels has decreased by 10 points.
Holy shit, that's the best news I've ever heard.
Now, I wonder how all of this is being swallowed, bitter pill as I'm sure that it is, by religious apologists. Like, let's say, for instance, Eric Metaxas.
In 1966, Time magazine had an iconic cover that was titled, "Is God Dead?" My guest today thinks so much has changed scientifically speaking that we should be asking a different question. Not is God dead, but is atheism dead? My guest, you'll recognize him as best-selling author, radio show, TV host, Eric Metaxas, who has a new book out called Is Atheism Dead? Eric, thanks for coming on and talking about your new book.
Oh, this little thing? Is that what you're talking about? This little thing? This is no big deal. Actually, it is a new book, and I can say bluntly, I've never been as excited about a book as I am about this. I mean,
now this isn't some very old clip over a decade out of date or something. And Eric didn't write this book of his back in the early 2000s or anything like that. This book is less than 2 years old, published in October of 2021. And this interview with Sean McDowell, just one of a myriad of interviews and press tour stops that Eric did promoting this book, happened at about the same time. So this information on the dropping off of theistic belief was already well cited and public knowledge at the time. Maybe Eric and other apologists were thinking that trends were going to turn right around any day now, and Eric was just calling it before it happened with this book. But unfortunately for him and all of the other people trying to futilely stem the tide of non-belief that is occurring, this doesn't seem to be the case. Atheism is actually on the rise, and more people are turning away from theistic belief every day. What's also interesting, as pointed out by the article, is that there are even statistically significant percentages within religion itself who are becoming atheists. The article states, "Belief is highest among those who attend regular religious services, with 98% of Americans who attend weekly services and 94% of those who attend nearly weekly or monthly services saying they believe in God." Protestants and other Christians were also slightly more likely than their Catholic counterparts to believe in such spiritual entities, according to the poll. While 94% of Protestants said they believe in God, 85% of Catholics said the same. However, this difference is more pronounced on belief in hell and the devil, with Protestants believing in both entities 20 points more than Catholics. So even among those who attend church services regularly and consider themselves as part of a religious congregation, there are non-believers. Maybe they're people who have lost their faith but fear losing their community. Maybe they fear what would become of them if they were to be honest with their loved ones about their lack of theistic belief. Maybe they've spent their lives with their religion being such a core part of their identity, they don't know who they would be without it and are so loath to leave it behind, even if they have enough honesty to admit that they no longer believe. Whatever the reason for their staunch refusal to leave their religion behind, it doesn't change the fact that there are growing swaths of people even within the congregations who are no longer believers. So this is all very encouraging news. Sure, America is still lagging quite a bit behind most other Western nations when it comes to ditching our attachment to theistic belief, and most annoyingly, our insistence on bringing it into the public forum and using it as the basis for far too much legislation. At least things are continuing to move in the right direction. Something I've always said and still firmly believe is that history tends towards reason. Yes, it goes far slower than we would like, and there will always be the Eric Metaxases of the world who spend their lives trying to drag society kicking and screaming back into the Dark Ages. But the truth is that, more often than not, they fail. They're forced to hunker down in their churches and on their pulpits, literally preaching to the choir, and sometimes actually believing that their crowds of like-minded people are an accurate representation of the greater national population, and that public opinion is actually trending their way. But they're blind to the fact that not only is that not the case outside the doors of their churches, but even inside them, they're losing ground. So, I hope all you fellow non-believers that you find this article encouraging and a welcome little piece of good news to brighten your day. So that's where we'll leave things for now. So thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like this video, comment, and subscribe so you'll always be notified when new content comes out. Till next time, this is Professor Plink reminding you to keep striving for greater understanding. It's the best way to get wherever you want to go.